by the KM Global Knowledge Network, the KM Global Network, and my colleague Ved is going to speak a bit more about this a bit later. But just to set the context, we are joining this event as part of a whole series of events around the world. And here's a post by Moria Levy on LinkedIn, which lists all the events from around the world which are a part of Global Knowledge Week. We're very proud to have all of you here today. We have about 45 registrants joining us as part of the India event out of Bangalore. I also want to request all of you to join some of these other events, which Ved will tell you a bit more about in just a few minutes. My name is Madan. I host this series, among others, as part of the Bangalore K community. I've published a number of books on knowledge management, digital media, innovation, and so on. And the core thesis of all our work over here in this K community series is that successful KM, is a combination of a whole bunch of factors. I've used a very catchy thing called the 8 C's. So obviously, in this day and age, connectivity through internet, mobile, smartphones, and so on, content, information, knowledge assets, etc. But none of these will work unless you've got a good culture of knowledge sharing, knowledge capture, and so on. A community spirit, different kinds of communities of interest. We're going to hear from one of the gurus of the knowledge community concept in the keynote session at the end of our talks today. All this also costs money, so it's very important for KM people to keep an eye on the return on investment. What problem are we solving through KM, and is it actually giving the promised returns? And these always keep changing as a company, as an organization evolves. There also is an element of commerce here. It's like an exchange. I exchange ideas with other people. I get what I give, etc. There are rewards for what I give, knowledge points, and so on and so forth. This, of course, takes a lot of collaboration between different kinds of departments in the organization, and as we'll talk about in a minute, also cooperation between different organizations, not just departments in the organization. All of these needs different kinds of skill. Today, one of the hottest topics is how do we upskill employees and managers to use GenAI as part of knowledge work. So that's the capacity part of it. So that's some of the thrust of the events and the discussions we have over here. For those of you joining the Bangalore K community for the first time, we've been in existence for almost 20 years now in physical and hybrid forms during the pandemic and after that. We also are a part of what used to be called the CII Global Knowledge Summit. We're going to organize it independently from now on. This also is a part of a series of events organized by the KM Global Network. Some of you are new to this forum here today. Please do check out the website and tap into the global community of knowledge professionals. After my few brief remarks, we're going to go to a few startup pitches. They're going to give us some insights on how are smaller new players, agile, nimble players entering this whole knowledge ecosystem with tools of their own, which they're pitching to corporates such as many of you in the audience. You can see all of them in these links. I'll share this presentation with everyone at the end of the session, so no need to take too many notes and so on. So we're going to begin with a bunch of startup pitches, and the reason why we begin with startups is, of course, well, partly Bangalore is IT capital, offshore capital, IT services capital, BPO capital, and now startup capital of India and of many parts of the world, actually. And a lot of startups come up with new ideas and they disrupt existing enterprise workflows and so on. And this goes on to become a new practice and ultimately a best practice through different kinds of knowledge professionals. So that's kind of the cycle which I call the knowledge cycle, going from a new practice, next practice to the best practice. So today we're going to have this kind of a flow today. We're going to begin with pitches by some startups to see what's new in this space of enterprise knowledge. How is digital helping change this whole knowledge enterprise workflow? Then we have a group of KM practitioners who will talk about what's happening in their organizations. How well is technology working? What the role of leadership? What are some personal anecdotes they may share from their examples? And we'll end with how do we all collaborate? At the end of this whole session, I'll share email IDs of all the speakers with each other, the startups, the speakers, the keynote, and so on and so forth. We also, this is my small corporate pitch plug over here at MXR.world. We help connect big companies to startups to improve the knowledge coefficient, the knowledge quotient, which is how are you analyzing new trends in the marketplace? How is AI coming and disrupting the marketplace? How are you dealing with new kinds of ideas through, for example, startups, demo days, hackathons, and so on? We do this a lot with a lot of companies now who want to become more innovative by engaging with startups. So half my work is with big corporates and the other half is with startups and entrepreneurs. So these are some of the things that we can structure for you. We can talk about this at the end of the session, which is we can come to your organizations and come up with new ideas on improving knowledge flows, knowledge tools, and so on with very specific engagement models in mind. So that's pretty much from me as a welcoming remark from the Bangalore Tech community, from MXR.world, and from all of us here in Bangalore. All the best to all the other KM organizers around the world, and let's get down to business with our session today now. We're going to begin with two startup pitches. We normally begin with five, but for reasons of time, we're going to stick to two startup pitches. I'm going to ask Srinivasan Rangarajan to speak in just a few minutes, following which Liam Fallon will speak on behalf of Good Space. After that, we're going to hear from Ved Prakash, the CEO of Trans, who also is very active in KMGN, the KM Global Network. He's going to tell us a bit about what's in store for other kinds of KM events in this space. We're going to end with a keynote by one of the gurus in this field, Stan Garfield. We're very lucky to have him at a very early hour in the US to come and join us here in the afternoon. But before that, there's a big panel discussion we have in the middle. This is the core of our event today, which is a panel with five outstanding experts in the field of KM. I'll introduce them to you one by one a bit later, but just for reference, here's who they are. Sundarajan from Virtusa, Sakshi Sharma from Genpact, Prabjot Singh from PepsiCo, Arunab Singh from Helion, and Gauri Sangi from Dasra. So very different sectors, some profit, some non-profit, some tech, some services, and so on and so forth. So that's the agenda for the day today. We're going to begin with a couple of startup pitches. Then I'm going to ask Ved to come in over here. So let's get started. Any comments you may have, please come in the chat window and type in what you may have to say. Let's hear now from Srinivas Rangarajan. Srinivas, over to you. You can take over the screen now.
Okay.
After Sundarajan, we'll hear from Liam.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, are you able to see the screen?
I think you're sharing another screen. You're seeing Zoom.
So we can see your screen, but we can't see the presentation.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. How about now?
Superb. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, I'll give a quick 5 minutes pitch of Ongil. So at a very high level, what Ongil does is we have built an AI platform where we deal a lot with unstructured data pipelines. We can deal with structured as well as unstructured, but we specialize a lot in large scale data acquisition of web pages, PDFs, and so on, and then do the entire pipeline of data quality cleansing and so on, and then build a data lake and then analytics on top of it, and then build a conversational platform on top of it, so that you can ask any questions on it. So in a way, it's kind of end-to-end enterprise knowledge management, because you can we have actually indexed some books where the entire course is automated for IT Madras and so on. So that's one good example of the knowledge management space. And our startup in numbers, basically 15 employees, out of which 4 have PhDs, another 4 as masters from US. And we have a couple of Fortune 500 customers. I'll show you the list. And basically, it's led by myself and Ajit. Ajit has a PhD from France in computational neuroscience. And I am alumnus of IIT Bangalore with 27 years experience in different companies like Yahoo and so on. So basically, this is our customer ecosystem. So our first customer was Unilever. So Unilever, we built a large data warehousing analytics solution. And for 3M, it was a market research reports, basically from different marketplaces. IIT Madras was, I would say, a very good knowledge management in this case. The entire NPTEL course was automated. And basically, the entire book was plugged in along with their videos, so that any questions asked. Basically, it's a conversation agent. Any questions asked, it will bring a generative AI summary along with the links to the PDF. So that's why it's an explainable AI, where it also gives you a source. It's not picking you from a black box of Wikipedia data and so on. It is picking you from the known sources. And so some of our other customers include Capgemini. Capgemini, we are working with building an IP of, we have built a wealth management agent for answering questions around the wealth management space in both generic FAQs as well as very customized flows for agents where you can ask questions, you can do portfolio simulations, and you can do goals management, very, very specific modules, and so on. And PepsiCo was basically a stockout prediction use case. IIT Madras was a complete course. Basically, the professor wanted a bot where the students can ask any questions. In some of them are highly mathematical in nature, and the bot will give a very good generative summary along with all the sources, so that students can actually go to the source textbook and look at it, or source videos of the professor and look at it. So these are some of the different use cases. So yeah, Capgemini was the financial services, and IITM was the enterprise services, 3M and Unilever CPG retail, and so on. So we are into different verticals, and primarily this is the kind of the life cycle. So the data collection, we built data acquisition engine can scale. We have scaled a very large number of data point collections, and we have close to 50 different connectors from different marketplaces. And then we can do synthetic data generation. Data is not available, and then the cleansing pipeline, all that stuff, and then several different algorithms for analysis and modeling, visualization, stuff like that. And then we built our core right now is a conversational platform. On top of it, we have built two verticals, more than two verticals. Basically, the financial services, edtech, and then sustainability. So in sustainability, knowledge management space, basically you have a CSRD protocol in Europe, and it's a very cryptic protocol, difficult to understand. So the customers learn the protocol by asking questions, right? From simple question like what is CSRD and what is GHG and so on. And then it will actually generate some proposed suggested questions. And so you can learn, you can basically learn by discovery rather than reading a book. You ask a simple question, then you suggest some complex questions. So basically you go through a graph of questions, and then you basically discover the entire field. And then you can also take an output as a PPT of the entire session. And then that's how, the knowledge discovery happens. And this is a little more detailed one. And this is about the leadership, myself and Jithas Namam leading it. And so basically just some of the metrics in data processing in terms of the accuracy, and in terms of, I think Unilever tested our accuracy of the data quality. They were able to achieve about 95%. And then basically some of the reviews and stuff, tested their customers. So this gives insights about our team structure, where we have a data science team and a data engineering team led by me. So it's a combination of these two which actually provides the solutions. So some of the data science capabilities, basically to the data science and data engineering capabilities. These are some of the, these were originally backed by Lakshmi Narayanan of Cognizant. He was one of the seed investors. He's invested close to 100K on that, and followed by several other individual investors. And these are the two customer testimonials we have. In fact, we have more, but you just highlighted two of them. From Unilever, the VP of e-commerce, and from 3M, basically from the head of the e-commerce program. So 3M, we were basically delivering market research reports for the entire Southeast Asia marketplaces for them, for the 3M SKUs. And Unilever used us to build an enterprise-grade analytics solution for us in terms of their, collating from different warehouses and so on. And so these are some of the accolades which were received. That the Brussels government basically have invited us to basically set up in Brussels and then start selling our sustainability solution, which is basically they have the mandate for all the corporates to basically adhere to that, and as part of that they have to ramp up on the learning. So we'll be the accelerator in that, and they also offered some funding on that. And Microsoft gave us 150K funding on part of the Azure marketplace, and we have listed Synapse.g in the sustainability product there. And then we were also part of the Tech 30 last year. We were in the Tech 30, and then part of the ABNB program, Wipro program, and before this, I just had a call with Intel. So we are expanding our partnerships in our different spaces. capability, AI-driven data preparation, processing, and harmonization. So one of the customers use case which we are working on is they have some 1,500 websites from different banks, and we need to, and the data structures are different. So we are building agents, basically the code generation for, we cannot obviously do it manually. So we are doing code generation for all those different kind of structures, and then they will be deployed, and then the data extraction will happen. We will also do some validation. So that is the kind of.
Your time is almost up. Are you almost
Okay.
done?
Okay. So these are the core AI capabilities, and the AI centered engineering, and so on. So the basically the core message is that we have a core AI platform with two verticals: sustainability as well as financial services, and any other custom vertical can be built on top of it for the for any customer solution. So this is about the Ongel offering.
Very nice. Thanks, Sundar. Can you share this presentation with us afterwards? I'm sure a lot of people in the audience would like to get some more information about work over here.
Definitely. And we are also open for funding, joint with the Belgium government. So it's a kind of a consortium where we are trying to invite investors along with the Belgian government to take it to Europe.
Great. Thanks. We'll be in touch again. Thanks so much, Sundar, for kicking us off with the first use case of how startups are getting into this enterprise knowledge space. Let's turn to Liam now. Liam Fallon, are you in India now, or are you in London? Where are you?
I'm in London. So hello to everyone from London, and I'll be back in Delhi very soon.
Nice, nice. Go ahead. You got 5 minutes, Liam.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay. I'll share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay.
Sai, can you check if he's got sharing rights? Yes, he does.
I do, yeah.
It is just about to come
there. Something's not working. No.
Otherwise, Vinay, do you have a slide with you that you can bring up and you can?
I mean, can you see my entire screen?
I
Not
can't.
right now. No. Not right now.
You can't see my screen?
No.
Well, we can see you on the entire screen, but we can't see your presentation. So just share screen.
Yeah.
Otherwise, maybe you can send your presentation to my colleague and we can bring it up from here. We also have Preeti. Preeti, are you there? Preeti from Ondru. She also wanted to make a presentation. I guess she's not there. Okay, let's come back to Liam.
Hi, I'm here. I think.
Okay, great.
Hi, this is Preeti here. So, do you want us to go, or how does it?
Yeah.
It's a link.
Yeah, Preeti, go ahead. Liam will come back to you later. Maybe you can share your presentation with one of my colleagues on that email thread. And we
Thank you.
Outside.
Okay.
All right, perfect.
So, Preeti, go ahead. You got 5 minutes.
Yes. Hi, I'm Preeti, and I'm from Ondru Private Limited. We are a company based out of Chennai, India, and we are primarily into data-driven management consulting. And a little bit about Ondru and the inception of Ondru. We wanted to make sure that we come in as the disruptor in the SMEs and the MSME markets, especially in India. And we want to work closely with MSMEs and SMEs as, it's a very favored sector even for the government. The idea is to primarily work with the management using the data that they already have in hand. There are many amazing tools that are available in the market that an MSME takes and integrates into their, ERPs, into their management systems. And we work with this data that they already have in hand. And we come in as a layer on top and help them understand the data through intervention with our custom models that are, built in-house. And we believe that we like to interfere with the current process by intervening through our data processes. And one very interesting thing about Ondra is we do not have a proprietary software that we force an MSME or an SME to come and download to be a part of our, our company. We work with the data in the rawest of forms. You could be on SAP, you could be on any kind of software that is custom built, and we take the data in the rawest of forms. We help you understand, interpret the data. The idea is to make sure that you're freeing up the top management from the burden of having to number crunch, from the burden of having to sit and work through Excel sheets or whatever format that you're on. We give you data in a consumable format that is very easy to digest, and that way the companies will be able to focus on their core competence, which is scaling and which is building. In the startup ecosystem, if you notice, a lot of startups do fail because there is a lack of financial planning and financial intervention available for them. And we make sure that this whole activity is democratized, and we come in with our market research. We come in and support them with financial preparedness. We come and help them with identifying actionable goals and actionable processes that will in turn lead to revenue generation. Because simply put, any good idea is just a good idea if it's not sustained and if it does not lead to direct revenue, right? And that is one other offering that we offer at Ondra. We also help startups raise funding. We also help them in scaling. We also help them with making sure that they are incorporating cost efficient processes to make sure that their EBITDA is, if it's in the red, it turns green, and if it's in the green, it sees an upward trajectory. And one major
Preeti, you got 1 minute left. 1 minute left.
Yeah, sure. One major USP for us is that, you do not have to hire a full-blown finance team that will drain you, that will be draining you cost-wise. And we come in as your extended accounting finance partners. We are also venturing into global accounting. We have senior managers and manager teams who are from Big Fours in various industries, and we offer accounting support and audit support to global SMEs, MSMEs, listed companies. You could be doing audit firms, and we offer global accounting support as well. Me and my partner Rishi are available to answer questions later on.
Great, thanks, Preeti. Good. Let's turn to Liam now. Liam, are you ready with yours?
Yes,
I am. We're going to. I'm going to speak, and Saksham, who is the Chief Technical Officer, is going to show the screen.
So we can see it now.
Perfect. All right. So thank you so much for being gracious and inviting us and being patient. We are actually facing a challenge where the demand for our platform is outpacing our ability to meet that. So if you're listening, please, can you come and help us? We want to work with the right people. We want to work with the right investors. So we're Good Space. What is the problem we're solving? We spoke to 100 of our first customers, and we learned things we never expected. People are mass applying with ChatGPT for applications. So if you go onto LinkedIn, you post a job description, in about 50 minutes, you'll have 111 applications, and HR people in companies are just finding this totally overwhelming. After COVID, people have got totally different expectations about working arrangements. It takes about 45 days for people to agree to an interview and actually place. I mean, we're living in a totally different paradigm. That includes Gen Z, who like smileys. They like the conversational approach. They're much more informal. So companies don't know how to interact with this new paradigm in scale. Why? Well, Naukri, LinkedIn, they all were built when employers had the power, whereas now it's candidates. So how do we fix some of these things? Good Space will find you someone to be in your company in about 60 minutes because we directly contact them through channels they check regularly, like WhatsApp. People are not checking their LinkedIn notifications. And Good Space will do this at 10% of the cost. We've got 1 million users on our platform. We've got about 17,000 employers that have registered with us. How do we do it? We have unified sourcing the candidates, screening them, and shortlisting. So, and now a recruiter who's already been stretched with her time can look at video summaries of interviews with our AI agents. So we've got data and the technology. And if you go to the next slide, this includes detailed assessment of the candidates. So this just cuts out huge amount of work that traditional platforms don't provide for. So the next slide. The opportunity is that in India right now, there are about 1.6 million registered companies. We think that 150,000 of those will pay for the good space product at the price we're offering. So we're valued at about $15 million today. Over the next 18 months, we want 3 million more CVs. And at 4 million CVs in total, we will be able to fill any position that Naukri can. So who's going to make this happen? I'm head of growth. I'm going to be back in Delhi soon. Vinay built some of the first CRMs and ERPs in India. He's got a lot of skin in the game. He's put $1 million into this so far. He set up the Wigan Elite College, which has placed over 10,000 professionals across India, and that's been the form of the start of our database and how we've been able to open a lot of doors. Saksham has set up 2 previous tech companies that assess the programmer at the interview level. You can see that the business network plus the assessment, GoodSpace is the natural progression. We're also working with some advisors. You probably recognize Payush. Our connection with him goes quite far. But I'll go straight to the next slide. How do we make money? Well, at the moment, we are selling recruitment solutions as a package. It starts at about 35,000 rupees. It will find the candidates from a huge database, shortlist them, assess them with the AI interviewer, and you can look at those AI video recordings of the candidate's interview and make a very quick decision if they've got the right communication skills. So in 2021, when we started, we just had to focus on growth, so we didn't charge. We're now asking for money because we need to grow. So there's about 3 revenue streams in total. Who are our competition? I've talked about the old guys, Naukri, LinkedIn. They've got the data. The new guys like Mercer, who've got a seed round of 3.6 million, they've got the tech, but no data, even to this day. So we are the only company that has the database of 1 million registered users and the tech. Thanks. Next slide. We've got over 500,000.
30 seconds.
Sorry?
30
Brilliant.
seconds. Yeah.
Thank you. We've got over 1 million downloads on the App Store. And the next slide, please. And we're going to take $1.5 million to spend about 40% on marketing, 25% on personal cost. CAC is under $1, and every month we are only spending $25,000, which is much, much less than Mercer and our other competitors. So thank you very much. I want you to take a picture of this QR code, download the app, and give us your feedback. If you can connect with me, liam@goodspace.ai, I'd be really nice to talk to you. And yeah, MXR, thank you very much for hosting us. And it's been good to hear some of the other presentations too.
Thanks so much,
Cheers.
Liam. Thanks, Liam, Vinay, and Saksham for your excellent slides. We'll connect all 3 of you startups. We'll connect all 3 of you startups to investors and to potential corporate buyers. So don't worry, you're in good company. Let's now turn to our next speaker. I want to invite Ved now. Ved Prakash is the CKO of Trans and a very active member of KMGN. Ved, over to you. Let's hear from you on what's happening with KMGN and other kinds of activities. Thanks.
Thank you, Madan. So some of you might be aware that we are having the Global KM Week as part of KM Global Network activities. Now, those who are not familiar with Knowledge Management Global Network itself, It's basically a network of KM networks around the world. So there are close to 20 networks from different continents and around 12 countries that are represented in KM Global Network. And we took a call last year to start having something called a global KM week, because there was nothing on the overall calendar across the world on something to do dedicated to knowledge. So initially the thought process started with having a world knowledge day or an international knowledge day, but then that morphed into a global KM week. So last year was the first instance, and this year we are celebrating it even on a much larger scale. So incidentally, we are fortunate to have the current chair of KM Global Network, Manfred Bonman, over here as part of the attendees. Manfred, if you could wave at everyone. Right, thank you. Manfred is representing Austria in the KM Global Network. So coming back to the Global KM Week, we have these 30 countries hosting a huge variety of events and activities, all structured around knowledge management. And the whole objective of celebrating Global KM Week is to, one is bring attention to knowledge management as a discipline, also create awareness and interest around it. So at last count, there were 138 activities that have been noted down, which are happening in these 30 countries. These activities have begun even before the KM week. So right from the beginning of October, 2 weeks back, and some of them will continue till the end of the year as well. So on Monday, we had 9 events in 9 different countries happening. On Tuesday, there were 12. Today, even as we speak, including this K community meet, which is also part of Global KM Week celebrations, there are a total of 16 events happening. Tomorrow again is a bumper day with 16 events happening around the world. And on Friday, there are 15 too. Right. Coming to India, on 14th of October, there was something called K2D. It's November to December, which one of the very large infrastructure conglomerates of India has launched as an event, and we'll shortly get to hear from them. Today, we are having the K community meet. Tomorrow, another large infrastructure company of India is hosting a webinar for all their 10,000 plus employees on the topic of unlocking the power of knowledge. So now the K2D event, November to December, we have 2 gentlemen who are the prime movers for this event, Jaydutt and Sanket. I would invite them to talk a bit more about this particular event as part of the Global KM Week celebrations. So over to you, Jaydutt and Sanket. And thank you, Madan, for giving me time.
Thanks, Ved. Hello, Jaydutt. Good to see you. And I'm seeing Sanket also for the first time. Great. Please tell us what you have in mind. Thank you.
Yeah. So very briefly, I'll just set up the context as Sanket shares the screen. So we are from Afcons Construction. What we do is we are India's largest EPC construction company. We are at the size of around $1.7, $1.25 billion. And we do a lot of work in railways, metros, highways, bridges, etc. Now, you may know some of the iconic projects that we've done. We've done the Rohtang Tunnel, the Chenab Bridge project. And these are very technically challenging and complex projects. So we've been having a long association with Global KMGN, as well as internally the KM function, and Afcons is more than 10 years old. So in terms of when it comes to knowledge management activities, we've been the recipient of a lot of awards. One of the reasons that's been a driver for that is the fact that more knowledge management activities are also do a lot of with people engagement activities. And so since most of our user base is at remote sites across the world, so we do a lot of these campaigns, and K2D November to December is one such campaign that we do. It's an outreach where we want to reach out to people and ensure that we have them talking about knowledge sharing, knowledge dissemination, and also ensure that as a corporate repository, we are able to access both the explicit and the tacit knowledge within people. So Sanket will take you through the modalities of K2D.
So first of all, thank you, Ved, for providing Afcons the opportunity to present regarding our this K2D event. So very quickly, I will take you all what is this K2D event. So in the year 2017, that is 8 years back, we had started with this initiative called K2D, which is November to December. So it is play on the words knowing to dissemination, that is knowledge capture and knowledge dissemination. So we have a dedicated 2 months, that is November and December for this campaign. So this is a flagship annual campaign run by the Knowledge Services Group in AFCONS. And the aim of this is to capture explicit and the tacit knowledge. So we have multiple categories in this particular K2D event, ensuring we capture explicit and tacit knowledge. And every year, as per the organization requirement and vision, we have different categories to capture this knowledge. In last year's K2D, that is 2023, we saw 70% of our AFCONS project participating, and there were around 489 submissions that we have received. These are some of the activities of K2D that are being done at the projects. So we have this K2D awareness session. So first, a person from KM, we do awareness, and later on we have a pool of knowledge ambassadors who are our extended arms at project. And these people later on conduct the awareness session for the entire project team at the project, ensuring whatever this campaign details are there are reached to the last person at the project. Then we have some promotional content. We have these posters that are posted on the notice board. We have message by our EVC sir, project manager. So all these are put and decorated on the notice board. We also give out this dangler. So in this at top you can see this dangler. So right like this we give some decorative material, as this November and December falls into this festival season of Dasera, starting with Diwali and Christmas. So it's kind of festival for all our projects, and it's a celebration for all of us in AFCONS. So now let's see this year's K2D 2024, and in this week what we have done. So as Ved already mentioned, on 14th of October, that is this Monday, we have officially launched this particular K2D event. So it was an online meeting through which this official launch was held. During this meeting, we had revealed what all categories are there, how the people can participate. And along with this, in the same meeting, we had some testimonials from the past K2D winners, where they had three of them had shared their video messages. Now let's see in coming weeks what are our plans. So we will be having a one-on-one K2D awareness session with each of our project. So this is to ensure whatever the categories are there, how the submissions can be done. So all those things are reached to the last person at the site, and everyone gets to participate in this. We also have a spot quiz. I understand as this campaign runs from November and December, so there are almost 2 long months in which we need to complete this campaign. So it's very important to create that engagement and excitement among all the employees. For this spot quiz is what we have started from last 3-4 years, and we got good response in this. We also have a special contest for our knowledge ambassadors. So as I have explained, knowledge ambassadors are the people at site who are our ambassadors for knowledge management. And we run a special contest for these people to keep them motivated and engaged during the entire 2 months of the period. And at the end, we also have rewards and prizes for all of them. So that was from our side. In case there are any questions, we are open for that.
Thanks so much, Sanket and Salar. These are very good examples of how big companies can implement KM effectively at scale. Let's turn now to our next session, which is the panel discussion with our speakers. And let me share once again the name of the speakers. You must have seen this already earlier, but we have 5 outstanding speakers with us today to talk about how KM is working in their organization. Once again, we have with us Sundaraj Venkatraman, KM architect at Virtusa, Sakshi Sharma, Knowledge Transformation Manager at Genpact, Prabjot Singh, Senior Manager for KM at PepsiCo, Arunab Singh, Information Management Lead at Helion, and Gauri Singh, manager for young people and gender equity at Dasra. She's also had an extensive KM experience in her previous companies. So I'm going to ask a panelist to speak in two sessions. The first part, I'm going to ask each panelist to talk in about 5 minutes about what's happening with KM in your organization, how does it work, what kind of impacts have you had, can you share with us some of the success factors for KM? We'll run through all these 5 speakers and hear about their case studies. In the second round of questions, I'm going to ask each of these 5 speakers, what are some trends that you see in KM? Which of these trends are important for you right now as an organization? And what are your tips or recommendations to succeed in KM for other KM practitioners in this audience over here? So let's begin with the first round of questions. Sundaraj, are you here with us? Sundaraj, I'm going to ask you the first question.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about KM at Virtusa. Go ahead.
You can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Right. I have 5 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
You want to share some slides? Or...
Yeah, I am trying to
superb.
share.
Yeah, I've stopped sharing. So...
Right.
Great.
You should be able to see that now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Right. So I joined Virtusa in an interesting time, 2021 April, at the peak of the pandemic. And it's different than the previous jobs because from interview to joining formalities, background verification, even my laptop was sent home by a courier, by the post. And I've been observing the remote working and the hybrid working ever since, and how to get the best out of knowledge workers in such a setup. And that's part of the problem that I wanted to speak about. But what I do in Virtusa is I joined for one of their telco clients as an architect. And what I'm showing on the screen is some of the work that we're doing. Now, if you see this, anything below this dotted line is the tacit, and above that is the content strategy. That's where it starts. Now, where I normally operate is in the competency or the capability enablement, the KM capability enablement in their tools, be it the ITSM, CRM, ERP, and then into the next gen, the GenAI, right? Now, this first, the top 2 layers is where I mostly work. And my remit does not, at the moment, I'm trying to push it towards the bottom 2 layers where that's the actual foundation of the knowledge management, the tacit to content conversion. Because when I look at the technology, it's not just about features or stories that you enable. It will work even though there are many mitigation strategies, like whenever you go for a GenAI, the RAG or the retrieval augmentation or the knowledge graph, even though you have many mitigation technologies to avoid AA hallucination, the quality of the outcome depends largely on the content and the quality of content being supplied, right? So what I'm saying here, the point is, whenever you build a tech stack, you have to have a very robust foundation, which is the tacit to the content, and the business construct and the taxonomy and the information architecture has to be very robust if you want your GenAI to work, right? That's the lesson I've learned, and that's the message I wanted to share.
Fantastic. Thanks, Sundaraj. We'll come back to you for the second round of questions next. But let's turn now to a speaker from Genpact. Sakshi, are you here with us? Sakshi, you have the floor now. Sakshi. Okay, if not, we have Prabjot with us here. Prabjot, you're here with us? Yeah, Prabjot, tell us a little bit about KM at Pepsi.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Madan, for giving this opportunity. And hello, everyone. So overall, I would like to begin with my experience. I hold about 14 years of experience, out of which a decade has been into knowledge management. So I've seen a variety of, KM experiences through the past 3-4 companies that I've worked with. And where I worked with in the beginning, that had a very mature stage in knowledge management. And then later on, I moved to another company, which we're halfway through. And now in PepsiCo, it's a stage where we, as a team, are setting up the knowledge management. So we have a lot to do. And in that journey, what we are doing presently is we are building up all the platform, and we are migrating all the documents from various places to a single source on ServiceNow. So when I joined the company, I was told that the function that I would handle, which is HR, and I've been handling HR function for the past 4 to 5 years. So the documents have been migrated, and you are the lucky one. But unfortunately, that's not the way. When I joined, I got to know that there are a lot of information and documents which are spread through various platforms, such as SharePoint, sometime in Teams, some at desktops. And then we got in collaboration with the stakeholders. We identified all the tacit information, all the articles. Then we migrated all the remainders into ServiceNow. And then later on, once we migrated, we understood that, okay, migration is not enough. We need to teach how to use ServiceNow as well. So we had multiple training sessions on ServiceNow. And also during this, we had transitions going on, and creating of articles was tough because the DTPs, which are named as desktop procedures in PepsiCo, they have about 30-40 pages of instructions, and capturing images for 30-40 steps is not that easy. So we introduced another tool, which is known as Epiplex, which captures at a keystroke level. That helped many of our stakeholders to create documents on a very ease. And yeah, after that, we had roadshows as well, many workshops we conducted in our companies to educate people on KM and to make them understand what is the importance of KM, what is being done, how it is being done. And yeah, so now today we are there. We are not finally matured yet, so we are still in the journey. So, but like whatever the achievements we have made, we have migrated thousands of articles now into ServiceNow, and we have come up with a standard template which we adhere to, so that all the documents look like same and it is easier to prepare. Then we have also some audit controls so that we can have the sanity of the repository. So we conduct these audits on a quarterly basis to understand how everything is going on. And we have also come up with dashboards to analyze the trends of recently published articles, what are the state of the articles, and keep a follow-up with the stakeholders so that the recipient, the end user, they have the updated information on their system. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And there's a lot to do, and we are working on it again and again. And one more achievement that we had was we created a website, a Wikipedia website for one of the capabilities in HR. And I think, yeah, I have one of my colleagues here who was a part in that project, and she led it pretty well, and we are finally there. So yeah, it's pretty good, and a lot of learning, a lot of more things to do as well. So yeah, over to next speaker.
Thanks, Prabjot, for sharing us some of the insights of KM at PepsiCo. We're still waiting for Sakshi from Genpact to join us, but let's go on to our next speaker, Arunab from Halion. Arunab, the floor is yours. Tell us a bit about Halion first of all, and then what you're doing with KM at Halion, and maybe your earlier companies as well. Arunab, over to you. Thanks.
Sure, Madan Mohan. Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, wherever you are. My name is Arunab Singh, and I have about 15 years of experience in the field of knowledge management. As for Halion, it is a spin-off from the erstwhile GSK healthcare consumer company. So Halion is basically consumer and healthcare. It's not an FMCG, it's FMCH, where you basically have medical products which are offered over the counter, so you don't need prescriptions to get those products. Some of the examples are Sensodyne or Otrivin, Crocin, and Osteocalcium, to name a few. There are many others, apart from Centrum as well, which is a multivitamin. So Halion is based out of UK, and it is 2.5 years old company as of now. And we are starting on our journey for knowledge management. And since it was a part of GSK Healthcare earlier, so they have a lot of legacy systems, a lot of legacy applications, as well as documentation, which was there as part of GSK. So we are still using ServiceNow, but we are in the process of investigation and looking up as what documents do we need and what documents we need to cleanse, or what documents we need to retire. So this is a part which is going on so far. But to just give a brief background of my experience as of now, I started off in a very small company called UPTech in Lucknow, and I was working as the ERP developer here. Then I moved on to do my master's in knowledge management from the University of Melbourne, Australia in 2005. And after that, I came back and I joined a company in Panchkula, which is again a very young company. And I implemented knowledge management there. I started the implementation there. And there was something which I learned during my course, which was social network analysis, basically looking at the nodes of where knowledge are being captured. So basically, NetDraw was a social network analysis tool that I used to draw the information graph. And so as of now, so what we call them as knowledge graphs right now in this year, the current area, that was social network analysis at that time. And then I moved over to Deloitte, which was basically more of a very professionally mature organization in terms of knowledge management, because they had everything set up. And I was majorly responsible to creating websites and documentation libraries to manage knowledge. I was also the owner for the DeloitteNet, the DNet, which was the complete intranet for Deloitte. After that, I moved into companies in SumTotal as well as Power School, which was more or less into product management. So product management into knowledge management, because it was more or less coordinating with the different product teams to understand their requirements and their need requirements and how to organize their knowledge sharing in different repositories. And also to ensure that the information that they were looking for, or the documentation or the SOPs that they were looking for, was organized at the right place and they were easily accessible. So because they had to cater to different customers and they were very highly critical customers. And if any issues came up, the tier 1 and tier 2 team should be there with the information at their fingertips so that they are able to resolve the issues that are being raised by the customers through the tickets. So it has been a very, I was also a part of the government of planning in the state of Uttarakhand, where I studied the information requirements for the different departments under the government. And it was a very interesting journey as well. So I would say I had a mix of both private as well as the government sector, and it gave me a great exposure in terms of where knowledge management is in the private sector and what it is the status currently in the government sector. So it has been a very enriching journey so far, and there are a lot of milestones yet to be achieved in my personal journey as an expert in knowledge management, as well as in my professional journey as the information management lead at Helion. Thank you.
Fantastic. Great. Thanks so much for that very wide array of roles you've covered, everything from documents all the way to strategy of the organization. Thanks so much for that, the insights from your experience. Let's turn now to Gauri. Gauri is from a very different organization. He's from Dasra, but also has traversed the KM journey through a number of organizations. So, Gauri, tell us your story.
Thanks, Madan. Hello, everyone. As Madan mentioned, I come from a very different sector as well. I'm a design practitioner. I focus on human-centered design, and my work in the last 12, 13 years has largely been in the development sector. So I've worked with NGOs throughout my journey on knowledge management. Just to give a quick background, until I think 7, 8 years back, I didn't even know a field like knowledge management exists. And more intuitively, I think I was working towards it. And, until one day my manager came and kept a book on my table saying knowledge management and said, this is what you do. Because we are talking about a sector where I think the context is very different. While scale means standardization, scale also means more diversity. I was working in organizations that were looking at education and skilling across 20 states. I was working with a small campaigning organization that had around 20 people. There are no funds for knowledge management in the development sector. So most times I was also justifying my salary by doing the kind of work that I was doing. on knowledge management. I thought I can share some learnings. I think while I come from the development sector, I feel these learnings are more around the art and science of knowledge management that I have learned over the years. I think one interesting thing has been that depending on the life cycle of the organization that you are designing the system for, the kind of goals that we are trying to meet are completely different, and as a result, the design is different. So, some examples of goals that I can think of is for one organization, I think the goal was transparency and the goal was decentralized leadership. So how do you think about data-driven decision making? How do you make rationale and the why of decisions more visible so that more people in the organization across different states, districts, blocks, villages can make decisions on their own? To a very external facing kind of goal where it is more about thought leadership. So how does an organization establish themselves as a thought leader? How do they do advocacy with the government? To maybe also looking at innovation and fundraising. In the sector that I come from, it's not like there is a separate research team and innovation team and R&D budget. Insights are being gathered on the ground every single day by everyone, and everyone is doing that work. So how do you design for systems where these insights are kind of bubbling up to inform strategy, to inform funds in organizations? And I think some learnings that have really kind of formed the foundation of the work that I do is one, that there's so much focus on technology and platform that organizations very often don't talk about the culture of knowledge management. So really talking about what does not get captured. Is there space to talk about failure? What does it mean to, really say, this is where we failed and this is what we need to do differently? And I think that's been a challenge, and it's a journey for actually leaders to invest in talking about failures, to invest in more invisible conversations. So I think that's been one big piece. I think the other one has been that knowledge management is largely looked at as an organization mandate. So if I'm an employee, I have to do this because my organization needs it. How do you shift the conversation to say, as an employee, I want to do this because it will help me do my work better? So what is the relationship that each employee is kind of creating with the knowledge management system is an important one to start building on, to build more ownership. I think adoption was already covered, that while there is time spent on creation of systems, I think adoption is as critical. In this sector, technology is not a given. We can't assume everyone is using a certain language, is well-versed with technology, or has internet access. So I think designing for adoption is critical. And the last one I wanted to share as learnings before I give it back to Madan is while there is this whole journey from knowledge creation to knowledge capture, I think something that I've learned in my work is meaning making of the knowledge that is being disseminated sometimes also becomes the role of knowledge ambassadors. So, while there can be archives and there can be a lot of things that are documented and kept, how are they being accessed? What is the meaning being made? Are they being updated? So facilitating the use of knowledge that is being disseminated in organizations is an additional role for knowledge ambassadors, at least in my experience. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Corey, for sharing your insights as a designer. By an amazing coincidence, 2 weeks ago, I was at another conference called Design Up, and the Dean of Design from the IIT in Chicago, he talked about exactly what he just said, which is today the big challenge is there's so much knowledge. We need to know how to go from knowledge to insight, which is sense making, and from there to choice making, and then decision making. And designers like you, I guess, know how to deal with uncertainty a lot. But traditional corporate managers don't know that well how to deal with so much uncertainty as compared to designers. So maybe designers are better people to take more leading roles in knowledge management than non-designers, kind of. So thanks for bringing up all those associations. So good. We are now at 5 o'clock, exactly halfway through our session, halfway through this panel also. And in the second half of the panel, I'm going to ask the speakers, the panelists, to talk about what you see as emerging trends in KM, and what are some of your recommendations to the rest of us on how we can learn from your experience. I also want to invite the other people to join the discussion, not just the panelists. I know we have Manfred and Lynn Schneider and a few other people from other countries as well. So please join the discussion over here. So let's begin with Sundarajan. Sundarajan, what do you see as some trends in KM and how is this affecting what you are doing today?
Well, in enterprise, something that excited me recently is the SharePoint embedded, right? Headless containers. And with AI crawlers and agents, I think it is going to change the way federated search in enterprises is going to work. Again, it's a tech stack. It all will work only if we pay attention and build robust foundations, which is the tacit to content, right? And apart from enterprise technology, two things really excite me. One is the real-time translation between languages, and then the Meta Orion glasses in the VR space.
Great, thanks, Sundar. I think you're right. There's a lot of profound changings happening in the tech stack, sometimes even without our realizing it. I noticed just a few days ago on my Windows desk bar at the bottom, suddenly this icon for Copilot has emerged. I never put it there, but things are changing around me without my even realizing it. Things are being updated all around us. So it's sentient AI or whatever you want to call it. Let's turn to Prabjot now. Prabjot, you're part of PepsiCo. How's PepsiCo seeing new trends in KM?
Yes, I think AI has impacted our lives ever since its inception, and every company is trying to integrate AI with knowledge management and other capabilities as well. So, as some couple of use cases, we have also tried to integrate AI and machine learning into knowledge management. So, in the previous part where I mentioned, we migrated a lot of documents to ServiceNow. So later on, we faced a challenge wherein, earlier we were a hub-based model, wherein we had different articles pertaining to different hubs locally. And then we decided that we need to move as a global and not local. So we merged all the knowledge bases into one knowledge base. And then we had this challenge how to differentiate the articles which are duplicate or which can be merged. So we had this machine learning similarity model from our tech support, which helped us identify very similar articles to 100% level or to 99, 98% level. So which were an exact match, we were able to remove them from the system or get retired, and which were a close match. We try to identify it with the stakeholders that do we need them, do we merge them, what do we do with them. So that really helped us in reducing the number of articles, reducing the duplicates. And yeah, we are also working on AI search model. We are not there exactly yet. We are testing it out on the pre-production environments. So as we mentioned that we migrated another set of all the policies, all the business information to ServiceNow, which is like a work in progress. We are also simultaneously working on how to integrate search, which will help us not only search articles on one platform, but also search from the other platforms like SharePoint or the local drives as well. These are the couple of use cases. Yep.
There's a question for you. Which app helped in finding duplicates in the chat?
Okay, let me quickly check.
From Rupa.
Which app? Okay, so this is Rupa. This is not an app. This is a machine learning based model, and the tech support team had helped us create this internal code from which they ran a code which helped us identify the entire body of the article. So this is something related to scripting, and which I'm not good at, but this is something that a tech support from a team can help you with. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Rupa. Thanks for that question.
Yeah, and apart from, sorry?
Yeah, go on with your.
Yeah. So apart from that, emerging trends, I see ServiceNow is coming up with a couple of new features in their new version, Xanadu. They are integrating some of the KM dashboards, which will help them, which help the users understand how many articles are going to expire, how many articles need to be actioned on. I mean, we already use this dashboard from our end, but as an integration with ServiceNow, it will definitely be helpful. And they're also coming up with Now Assist. So they will help us create the articles based on the cases. So these are the emerging trends which I see, and I would like to copy Gauri on the adoption and culture part, which we are trying to embed in our society as well. So that is the main pillar of knowledge management, which I see as a challenge and resilience, because unless and until the company understands what KM is, why we are doing this, and where it will lead us to, I think it will be challenging for all of us to, adopt this and move ahead with knowledge management. So that's pretty much it. And best practices, yeah, I would like to say collaboration is the key. Like the 8 C's you mentioned in the beginning, Madan. I think all of those are the key success for knowledge management, adoption, culture, collaboration. And one more C I would like to add here is communication. That is very vital. And that is, we have also been emphasizing on communication, because if we make any changes in the KM platform and we do not intimate our stakeholders, so now there is a knowledge gap again. And that is an irony with KM thing, because if we are creating a knowledge gap, we are not helping the stakeholders. So that is also key. And a couple of things, if we can go through. One is the KCS practice guide, which I would recommend. That is a great document to go through and learn knowledge management. And there is also one module in ServiceNow learning platform, which is about 6 hours or so. So that's a free learning video. Not only video, it is video and text mix. So it's a 6 hours of session, but I think to complete it, it will take more than that, because you have to think, focus, redo. I would like to, let you know that you go through it, and then you will learn more aspects of knowledge management. Yeah.
Great.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Madan.
Thanks, Prabjot. Gauri, what are some of your Aruna? What are some of the recommendations you have? Some trends you're seeing. Sorry, I forgot the question. What are some trends you are seeing?
Madan, I think one of the important things is when knowledge management got standardized. So when we got the KM standard coming out from the ISO, that is one thing which was very important, because prior to that, knowledge management was not being taken seriously by anybody in the really sense of time, or sense of really what knowledge management was. It was basically a fad initially in 1998 and 2000s. But now, after the standardization happened, it is where the companies would take it as basically as seriously as audits that are being happening, the ISO audits that are being done by the companies. So that is one very important, I think, progress that has happened for knowledge management. It got its own standard. Apart from that, the education of changes, as Prabjot mentioned, the change that is being done in any system, the change that is being done in any process in a company, that has to be educated from the top down to the bottom level. So everybody should be aware of the changes that have been done even on a simple level, not even on large scale, but only on a single level. Because the success of the knowledge management systems that are being implemented, or the processes that are in place in any company, it's very important. It depends on the participation of the employees in that company. So everybody has to have the information of what is going on, what is happening, what is being changed, and how is that change impacting their work, which they are working on. Because in the end, knowledge management is all about the organizational behavior. It's all about me. It's all about I. What is it impacting me with? How am I getting benefit by that change? So unless I get the benefit, I am satisfied that it is helping me, I would not be participating in that initiative, and that would be hampering the very success of the knowledge management initiative, which is being implemented in the company. So apart from that, I think AI is one other thing which is mentioned. The participation of AI, the contribution of AI and machine level learning is very important, because it will help in the search. It will help in the automation of search. Right now, what we do is we have the progression. We put in codes, we put in description, and the search codes would take that description and then help in the search. But having machine learning in place, having the scripting in place, would be will be faster, with helping the search to get faster and give us more accurate results. So these things which I feel, AI, machine learning, participation, change initiatives, change management awareness, and the standardization of knowledge management are I think the key standards that is coming up, and those would be there, which will be contributing to the success of knowledge management going ahead further.
Fantastic. Thanks, Aruna. Let's turn to Gauri, and then I'll turn to the questions in the chat window.
Sure. Thank you.
Over to you.
Very
Some of your
exciting.
assessment of trends.
Yeah, very exciting actually to hear all these trends. I'm going to shift the conversation to little human trends from technology trends. I think everyone here knows a lot more about technology than I do. I think for me, one interesting trend is the number of young people joining the workforce. So as a result, how knowledge is consumed is changing. And I feel that trend is also kind of eventually change how knowledge is documented, how knowledge is consumed, what forms it needs to take. So I think that is something I was thinking about. Similarly, I feel the foundation of knowledge management, the way I understand it, is also everyone a knowledge holder. I feel with more and more young people looking at themselves as content creators, as knowledge creators, being comfortable expressing themselves, having a language to talk, I feel is another trend which kind of can revolutionize the idea of who holds knowledge in an organization. And I feel design systems can be designed leveraging this need to express, need to document that young people have. I think the other thing which I find kind of interesting is this whole idea of, I feel we are more and more normalizing having multiple identities, right? So as an employee, my only identity is not that I'm an employee of this organization. I might be part of a LinkedIn group. I might be part of a WhatsApp group. I might have a completely different identity where I'm mentoring someone. So the whole idea of learning communities and communities of practice, within knowledge management, I feel there is more and more scope for it. I'm a lot more optimistic for uptake of communities of practice because I think we are normalizing the idea of learning through multiple channels and continuous learning. And I think the last piece that actually one more piece which I am most hopeful about is there are more careers in knowledge management now. More people can offer it as a service. I think more jobs can be created within organizations as careers for knowledge management. And the last piece I want to talk about is I think the idea of collaboration between different stakeholders. I understand I come from a space where knowledge is more open source in the development sector. But I also feel globally, and I would talk about it from an India standpoint, that I think globally there is more openness for collaboration and for knowledge sharing. And this webinar is an example of that. So I feel that the idea of India taking its learnings to globally, South Asia taking its learnings globally, I think there are more platforms for that. And I think that trend is critical because then how, again, that becomes a goal for organizations to establish themselves a certain way globally is an important goal for knowledge management to kind of address as we move forward. I'll stop there.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Gauri. You mentioned the word community many times, and that's setting up the stage very well for our keynote speaker, Stan Copley, in about 10 minutes. We still have about, 15 minutes. I want to open up the floor now to the other participants over here. I know, Pratik, you've had your hand up for quite a while now. Over to you, Pratik. I think you're still on mute.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, and it was really a great session. Like I'm collecting some notes as well. So currently I'm managing a project on knowledge management with International SOS. So basically, what during the readings or as well as the experience which I'm gaining, I'm new to this business, only an year. However, I can say GenAI, everyone is talking how disruptive it may be for any kind of business, but for KM, definitely it's going to its interaction with KM, a process and procedure which we are currently adopting is uh, quite important. Then we have the knowledge graphs as well, we talk about. Then how we are implementing the Gen AI in our systems, how we are providing trainings to the people who are a part of the game business. So that's gonna make quite a very difference. And collaboration is one of the latest trends that's seen, and also the change management. That's the one process which is going to impact all the global game business. So that's all from my side.
Great. Thanks, Pratik. Let me also invite Manfred to speak. Manfred, over to you.
Thank you for this opportunity. Great talk so far. I observed a little problem in knowledge management, which relates to the synchronization of people, like literally meeting at the same time, not necessarily in the same space because we have digital opportunities, but at the same time. And for example, in education, we have teachers available in the morning or afternoon, but not at midnight when the students are teaching or trying to learn. There is no teacher available. And the same for customers. For example, they have a problem at 8 o'clock in the evening. There's no customer service available, and in particular in my place, in Austria. So I think the synchronization is a huge opportunity where we can use AI, as discussed here in the chat, as a kind of intermediary. We are using, for example, wikis. We heard about that. And I see the GPTs, the specially trained GPTs, as a kind of ambassador, like Gori, you mentioned just a few minutes before. So maybe the GPTs can be the ambassadors who resolve like 80% of the challenges upfront based on trained GPTs, and then refer to the correct expert. I mean, the people who could resolve the rest of the difficult problems, which might be not clear or a problem to ask. I see the problem of hallucination, but I think this can be overcome if we do the special training. For example, just one sentence, how to do your per diems. If you're in business travel, how to do the cost accounting and how to do the tax work and all the details. I think GPT can help me a lot on preparing a proper file for the accounting department to reimburse me. So I think this can be done and save these people and relieve me of stress. Just give me proper help, and then even control. Say, is this more or less complying with the requirements? And usually, I guess, yeah, most likely this is sufficient for the department to account for. So I think this might be an intermediary function for the supporting. For the synchronizing opportunity. So just an observation of that trend.
Great. Thanks, Manfred. Let me ask also Anahit, Jacqueline, Lynn, and Claudia, if you have any comments or remarks to join in. We have got about 10 minutes before we move to the keynote session. Otherwise, let me ask my panelists the final round of questions. What is one of your key recommendations to the other KM practitioners in this group on how to succeed in KM? One or two key recommendations for other practitioners. Oh, Anahit, you're here with us. So please tell us about yourself and some of your reactions to the comments so far.
Just today I got so much information about knowledge management, so I will keep silence at this moment. Thank you so much, and maybe later I will come with some ideas. Thank you.
Superb. Please join us anytime. We meet on the third Wednesday of the alternate month. So December 18th, I'll come to that later, but please come and join us at the end. Yeah. Let me ask the startups also in the audience. We're hearing a lot about corporate use cases of knowledge management, and you guys are entering this space with a very interesting, new, fresh perspective, new tools, new perspectives and stuff. How would you think some of your tools can interface with what our speakers from the large companies here have just been talking about? Liam?
This space is moving very fast, and I can see that. Well, I was very interested in Manfred's idea that there are lots of different points in time at which knowledge needs to be shared so that everyone's working with the same up-to-date information. We would use that, to your question, we would use that on a daily basis when changes are happening to repositories that we are working on that just don't refresh quick enough, or we find ourselves not referring to them often enough. So would GenAI be able to summarize that quicker for me? I think it would. The biggest challenge is, can some agent that is summarizing the information integrate with all the different systems I'm already using? I always find that that's the most difficult challenge, integration. And Vinay, one of the things Vinay has always said to me, integration is where the value is unlocked. So yeah, that's my thought.
Absolutely right. In fact, that's what one of the first startups to pitch was trying to solve. How to integrate in real time all the data coming in for real time decision making on the fly. Very tough challenge, but you just nailed it right there. There is so much data that we have. How do we make choices out of it, integrate the patterns so that we can make good decisions? So it's not just integration, it's integration for a purpose. Anyway, a quick one sentence recommendation from each of you. Yeah, go on.
There was a point which Manfred mentioned just now about the teachers being not available at night when the students are basically revising or preparing their notes. So one of my previous companies was an information security company where we used to use machine learning and NLP, natural language programming, to detect signals, which were basically virus signals, and they're mapping basically trends. So the tracks of the virus tracks. So we had made a list of all the tracks which are there for those viruses or those information which we need to track and detect by the antivirus which the company was developing. So we used machine learning and NLP for that. So we can use machine learning and NLP for the same prospect which Manfred is mentioning in terms of if there is a specific issue or for a specific subject for a specific topic that can be used, that can be marked to the particular teacher of the particular subject using ML and NLP, and it can be it could be routed to that particular teacher in terms of maybe on her laptop or maybe on her mobile, maybe on that app, in terms of what is the query that the teachers or the students need to be resolved. That way,
Anomaly
maybe that
detection,
can be
right?
done.
Yeah, that could work. Okay,
Yeah.
we're running out of time now, so I just want to once again ask each of the panelists one sentence each. What is your one key recommendation for other game practitioners based on your experience? Sundaraj, your first sentence.
Right. If you go into a domain, understand what are the existing frameworks which are already available, and if there is a KM component in that framework. What I'm showing you on the screen, if I'm working for telco, the first question I ask is, what are the existing frameworks? One is ITIL, and then ETOM. They both have quite a mature KM practice. So you have something to readily pick and work upon, right? Likewise, other domains may also have frameworks, which I'm not aware of, but yeah, that's worth exploring.
Great, thanks, Sundar. Prabjot, from your experience, what do you recommend?
Yeah, sure. So from my experience, after learning all the C's, I would recommend the two P's. One is patience and perseverance. So it's tough to get KM into the culture. So have patience, keep working, and yeah, definitely one day your stakeholders will understand the importance and they will be on the same page with you. Thank you.
Great, thanks for adding those two P's, perseverance and patience. Arunabh, what's your one sentence recommendation?
But then I would again say one thing which I would share with Prabjot is patience, because we discussed about the point that the workforce is getting more Gen Z participants on board, and they're coming in. And I would not be wanting to be mean to anybody, but they are not patient enough in terms of focusing on the work that needs to be done. And for knowledge management, it's more or less in terms of being at it and doing the hard work initially so that you can reap the fruits later on. So that is what we need to do, because we have to put in the hard work in the beginning. So the collaboration, the patience, the testing part, and how do you get basically getting involved with what you are doing in the beginning to build up the strong framework and the foundation on which we can build up the entire knowledge management structure for any company or any organization.
Fantastic. Thanks, Arunabh. Gauri, you have the last word.
Let it be human-centered. I think whatever we create, let it be for people who have to use it. So bring in their needs, their trends, their behaviors to the center of designing any KM system. So,
great. Thanks, Gauri. Thanks, Sundar. Thanks all of you for joining us in this panel discussion. We have finished 5 minutes early, which is actually great because we have an outstanding keynote speaker with us now. It's my honor now to invite Stan Garfield to take over. Stan Garfield is a legend in the field of knowledge management. I came across his work very early when I started off myself in the field of KM with his work on communities. He's the guru of communities of knowledge, how to create and share knowledge among communities. So Stan, over to you. Welcome to our Bangalore K community. You have the floor for the next 30 minutes. We can have some time for Q&A after that. Big round of applause, please, for Stan. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Maiden, and thanks for having me today. I've been asked to talk about these three topics: the journey of the KM discipline and foundations and fundamentals and recommendations. So let me get started. Just a quick about myself. Spent 8 years at Deloitte as a community evangelist, 25 years at Hewlett-Packard, Compaq, and Digital Equipment Corporation, leading knowledge management programs there. And as Maiden indicated, I've published a number of books and been a frequent participant in events like at KM World and events like this. And I'm glad to share on events like this when I'm invited to do so. Let's start out by talking about the journey of the KM discipline. To the right, you see one approach that Nancy Dixon took, talking about the 4 knowledge eras, moving from explicit knowledge to tacit knowledge up through sense making. My own view of the history of knowledge management, going back to like the mid-90s, is that in KM 1.0, the focus was more on collection. So emphasis on creating repositories, trying to populate skills profiles, and trying to use search engines to find the content that was collected. We began to switch over around 2000 to something which at the time we called Enterprise 2.0, which was part of something that a larger thing called Web 2.0. We don't really use that term anymore. But during that time, we started to introduce more social technologies, things like blogs, wikis, and tagging, and that started to become used in corporate knowledge management environments. Then about 2010, more of an emphasis on connection. So collection being the first phase, worrying about getting a bunch of documents together. It turned out that that wasn't sufficient. Connection is really more of the use of communities. Enterprise social networks were introduced, and enterprise search became more important. And now we're in the era of what I would call of augmentation. Certainly there was a lot of discussion going on here about artificial intelligence. So we have generative AI, we have large language models, machine learning. Lots of things that can be done with it. We're still in the early phases of figuring out how to apply it in a useful fashion, but that's certainly the era that we're in right now. I want to talk about 5 foundations of knowledge management, and for each one, fundamentals that apply there. Let's start by talking about usability. So user experience is an important aspect that we should be incorporating into our knowledge management efforts, making sure that our systems are useful for our users, that the person's perceptions and responses that result from the use of a product or system of a service. If we are worrying about making our systems useful, then there's much more likely that they'll be adopted. Another concept is design thinking, a human-centered approach to innovation that draws from the designer's toolkit to integrate the needs of people, the possibilities of technology, and the requirements for business success. So in this approach, we design our systems with this rigor in how should this work, what should the prototype look like, how would this be best used by our users, how can we make this work better than if we just throw something together. And the third aspect of usability I'll talk about is agile development. So we've talked about agile originally in the context of software development, but we can apply it into other contexts as well. So agile development is breaking the work into several phases with constant collaboration with stakeholders, continuous improvement at every stage, and the team cycle through a process of planning, executing, and evaluating. The continuous collaboration is partly done with team members and with project stakeholders. And we can apply this more broadly than just in software development as agile management. So we have small teams and short cycles. It's customer driven, and we're working in a network, not in a hierarchy. So we can apply this to our knowledge management approaches. The second fundamental is findability. And findability, we'll start with talking about information architecture. Too often we ignore this. We're using systems that haven't necessarily been thought out as to how they interact with other systems, how they should be used. So information architecture, which has multiple definitions, is organizing, structuring, and labeling content in an effective and sustainable way to help users find information and complete tasks. So it helps users understand where they are, what they found, what's around them, what they should expect, and it enhances usability. So I always believe it's important, especially when we have a number of systems that we're trying to integrate, to back up a step and look at the overall information architecture. How will we navigate? How will things be classified? How will they be tagged? How will search work? How will this be presented to people? So if you combine the aspects of usability and design thinking and information architecture, those together can enhance the findability. The next aspect of findability is enterprise search, making content from multiple enterprise sources, such as databases and intranets, searchable to a defined audience, and can be done through a single ubiquitous search engine. So the goal of enterprise search is so that anyone can search using one search tool and be able to locate any content that exists in an enterprise or even outside of an enterprise, so they wouldn't have to go to multiple different search engines to look for things. Next aspect of findability is curation, something that we perhaps undervalue in knowledge management, but I think is very important. And one of the roles we play as knowledge managers should be in helping to curate content. It's taking existing information and making it more useful by better organizing it, by making it more findable, by making it easier to use. And the techniques that we have available to us for curation are many. They include creating best bets for our enterprise search, publishing frequently asked questions, monitoring, tagging, and enhancing online discussions, and compiling and sharing content and resources. So this is something that I spend a lot of my time doing. I'm curating not only the knowledge that I personally develop so that it can be found, but also curating the knowledge of many other people who are leaders in the field of knowledge management, and through that curation, making it more readily available to others who can benefit from it. Maiden mentioned that I have a special interest in communities, and certainly communities to me are always one of the core elements of any knowledge management effort. And in fact, if you're unable to do anything else, I assert that communities would be the one thing that you should do or start with. But you have to do them in a way such that they can be effective. It's not enough just to say you're going to support communities or to start a program and say, here we go, we're going to have communities. You need to think about them and how to make them effective. So the first thing would be to make sure that you have unique communities. And this is sometimes not the case within companies. Many different groups will want to start up their own community on very similar overlapping topics. But you want to try to prevent redundant communities so that it's easy for your users to identify which community they should join to find out about a particular topic. If you maintain a central directory of communities, you want to make it so that people looking at that directory can quickly find the one that's about a specific topic and find the right ones to join. When you keep the number of communities to a reasonable minimum, you avoid having a long and confusing list that users look at and then sort of give up. And you don't want that. You want a short list that has one community for each important topic. You also don't want to have communities where we create silos that isolate people who could benefit from being connected. So if you have 3 different communities on the same topic and a third of your people join each one, they'll not be connected to the other 2/3 where they could all benefit from being in the same community. And then the final point on having unique communities is you want to achieve critical mass. Critical mass is important to ensure that a community succeeds because you need to get up to a certain level to where the 90% rule of thumb applies, meaning that 10% of the community will be actively posting. If you only have a small number of people in a community, that 10% is just a handful of people, and that's usually not enough to make the community vibrant and sustainable. When you have a very large community with hundreds or more people in it, 10% of that community posting is enough for that community to be sustainable. You also want to have a comprehensive set of communities, one for each important topic, role, and specialty. So on the one hand, you don't want to have more than one community on a topic, but on the other hand, you don't want to have topics that are missing. So ideally, you have exactly one community for every important topic so that within the organization, people can join that particular community and know that the other people who specialize in it are members of the community and that they can learn together and help one another out. So creating a community directory where there's exactly one community for each important topic, and then having vibrant communities for each one is an important part of a successful communities program. And then it's not enough just to create communities and launch them. People have to actually participate in such a way that they can benefit from them. So what do community members need to do? At the very minimum, they've got to join the communities that are relevant to their work. They've got to subscribe in some way, whether that's through email, whether that's through alerts, somehow, so that they can be made aware of new posts that take place in the community. And then they actually have to read those posts. They have to pay attention to the communities. If that's true, if you have people belonging to at least one community, especially the one that's most relevant to their work, and if they are subscribed to get notifications when new posts occur, and if they regularly read those discussions that take place, now you have the potential for the full benefit of the community. You have all the people that could potentially help or benefit being in the same community. They're paying attention. So when some member comes in and asks a question, all the people that could be able to answer it are aware of it and then are able to respond to it. So these are important points. It's not enough to create a community. It's not enough to have people join it. You have to actually have people paying attention in the community so they can benefit from it. It's not required that everybody post. In fact, it's never going to happen. You're not going to get everyone posting. You wouldn't want everyone posting. That'd be too much. But you want everyone paying attention so they can all learn together. All right, the next foundation is motivation. Motivating people in order to do the things that you want them to do as part of the knowledge management program is important, but can also be challenging. So I'll talk about a few ways that we can try to motivate people to participate in the ways we want them. The first is recognition. And this can be very simple, just thanking people or liking their content or praising them publicly or helping with publicity for what they've accomplished or even formal honors. Any of these things or all of these things together can help motivate people so that they do the activities in your knowledge management program that you want them to do. You can actually use rewards. These can be financial and tangible rewards. They can include salary or promotions or bonuses. They might be gifts. They might be trips. There are lots of different ways to use rewards. They don't have to necessarily be expensive rewards, but in some way that indicates to the people that you're trying to motivate that this is important to the organization. And because it's important, you're willing to actually invest some actual financial impact on rewarding people for the desired behaviors. Now, sometimes people will complain that rewarding behaviors is not good, that you want intrinsic motivation, not extrinsic motivation. But in my own experience in my career, I found that the combination of recognition and rewards was quite effective. And if used properly, it has the important point of signaling to the people that this is important because the organization's investing in it. They're willing to use financial rewards, means that they should take this seriously. And then they also benefit if they're able to win those rewards. And then part of that, the aspect of gamification, the ability to apply the typical elements of game playing to other areas of activity to encourage engagement with a process or tool. So gamification can take on different forms. It often involves scoring points in some sort of activity. If you do something, you get a certain number of points, and those points are then aggregated and listed on a leaderboard. It can include a completion percentage, showing how someone is motivated to get to 100% completion. It can have a competitive aspect where people are shown against each other, and people generally like to compete and try to do best as possible. You can involve rankings where you show how people compare to their peers, and you can issue digital badges for different levels of completion or different kinds of activities. So gamification can go hand in hand with recognition and rewards as a way of automating or displaying visibly how someone is doing. Now, certainly we've been talking a lot about AI so forth, and we mentioned that now this is an era that we're in. I like to refer to it as the era of augmentation. So we're not replacing humans, we're not deciding on their behalf, we're augmenting human. And that's the way that I see AI really being able to help in knowledge management. So one area is in the area of decision support, where we can compile data from different areas and sources to provide information beyond the usual reports and summaries. We can analyze and compare multiple alternatives using AI to support us and help us to make informed decisions. We can also use it for auto classification. One of the challenges we faced for all the years we've been doing knowledge management is how do we make sure that we add the right metadata to our content so it can be found. This has usually been a challenge because users don't necessarily want to do this, or when people apply tags, they don't necessarily apply them consistently. So there can be a lot of different challenges involved in classifying content, but AI can certainly help with this. So it's a methodology for scanning the contents of a document and automatically assigning tags or labels or keywords to the document. And with the support of taxonomies and knowledge graphs, you can index content to appropriate categories and classes to provide rich metadata that eases the content management process. And through that, you can enhance findability. Generative AI certainly is the hottest topic of the current moment. The tools continue to evolve, get different names, different players coming, different versions are released. But essentially, they're algorithms capable of generating seemingly new realistic content from data they are trained on. They can be trained on text, they can generate images, audio, software code, data, 3D renderings. There's a lot of potential here. We're just beginning to scratch the surface of what can be done, but there's certainly a lot of potential here. Just last week, I published a blog post about the different uses that I see that we can have for AI, and I used AI to help me in generating that list. So next, I was asked to talk about recommendations for KM practitioners. So let's start with, if you're leading a KM program, what do I recommend you do there? Because it can be a challenge, especially if you're starting from scratch, if you're restarting a program or starting a new one within an organization. What should you do? So I think it starts with having a vision and being able to articulate that vision. What does knowledge management look like when it's working? You should be able to say that. So if someone says to you, I don't really understand what this knowledge management is, can you tell me? You should be able to answer that and do so with a certain amount of passion, where your vision is articulated in a way that people relate to that and are inspired by it. And then you work relentlessly towards making that vision a reality. You've got the vision now. What can we do to make that vision take place? And then you continuously implement, improve, and iterate. So you start small, you add, you improve, you get feedback, you see what's working, you see what's not working, you make changes, you continue to iterate so that whatever you're implementing gets better and better over time. Next, you need to have compelling use cases for your users. They need to understand what it is you want them to do and why it will be a benefit to them. So you don't start out by just buying a KM tool and trying to roll it out to everyone. That usually won't succeed because people won't want to learn a new tool. They won't see how it's beneficial to them, and it'll be just something that they'll try to put off dealing with. So you don't also want to just talk about driving adoption. You don't want to just say, I want everyone to start using this when they don't know why they should be using it. And you want to ensure that technology supports the people and processes, not the other way around. So you don't start with the technology. You start with, what is it that we want to do to help our people be more effective? Then you can introduce technology that supports that use case. So explain to users what it is that you want them to do, why it will be beneficial to them, and then how to do that. And then if they see the benefit into them and the use cases make sense and they relate to their work and making their work more efficient and effective, then they'll adopt it, but not the other way around. And you want to set goals for everyone. The goals should be simple, they should be fundamental and measurable, but it should be clear what you want people to do. You should consistently communicate and reuse those goals in everything that you do. So whenever you're talking about knowledge management, you bring those goals into it and you reinforce how those relate to the vision and the use cases that support it. And you widely communicate these goals and then inspect performance against the goals. And so by focusing on these goals and sticking with them over time, people will remember them. They'll realize that they relate to your vision. And if the use cases make sense, then they'll be able to help achieve those goals. Part two, we've talked about recognition as one of our foundations. Recognize those who demonstrate the desired behaviors. So once you've set these goals for people, then you want them to comply with them, but then you want to recognize them for doing so. As we mentioned, you can use praise just by praising people. It doesn't cost anything to do that, but the benefits can be enormous. You can reward them if you choose to. You can promote them. But there are a lot of simple ways to recognize people without spending any money at all. Just by thanking somebody for doing something will tend to encourage them to keep doing it. And finally, one of the most important things that you and other leaders in an organization can do is to lead by example. So you're telling people your vision, you're talking about what you want them to do. You've got to actually do that yourself. You have to practice what you preach. If you want people to adopt a tool, you've got to be good at using that tool so you can understand how it works, what some of its deficiencies may be, so you can correct them. But you want to be able to say from firsthand experience, this is how you use it, this is how I use it, this is how it benefits me, this is how it can also benefit you. And if you can get respected leaders to also model the desired behaviors, that's even better. So it's one thing for you as a KM leader to be leading by example, but if you get your senior leadership to do it as well, it's very powerful. So for example, in a community, you should be a leader of a community and be an active in it so that others follow your example in participating in the community. But if you can get other senior leaders to do so, if they can praise someone in a community, or if they can respond to someone, or if they can even just like a post, that can go a long way towards reinforcing that the community is something that they ought to be active in as well. I'll talk about 10 ways to build expertise in knowledge management. Many of you may already be expert in the field. Some of you may be starting out. There are different stages of your careers, but there's always things that you can do to even build more expertise than you currently have. And one way is to start out by assessing yourself and ask yourself the question, where am I? What am I good at already? I'll go ahead to this other slide for a moment just to show you that I've listed 100 different knowledge management specialties. I won't go through all of them here, but you can see that there's quite a few. And the point is, there's more specialties than any one person could hope to master, right? No one is going to be an expert in all 100 of these. But you should be good at some of these, at least one of these. If you find yourself not really being good at any of them, then that's a place to start. Pick one and say, I'm going to be better at this by learning more about it or getting more experience in using it. But I'd say assess yourself against that list. Find the ones on that list that you feel you're good at. Find the ones that you might want to get better at. And that's a starting point to help you decide how to proceed. The next thing you can do is by reading. You can read books, you can read blogs, you can read periodicals, you can go to websites and read their content. But reading certainly is an important part of building expertise. And this is never something that we stop doing. We're always reading, we're always learning. And even if you're already very good at something, you can certainly get better at it. The third is to participate in communities. So I lead a community called the SIKM Leaders Community. If you're in the field of knowledge management, I encourage you to join that community. In addition to having online discussions, we have monthly calls. Yesterday we had our monthly call, and you can participate in a variety of ways, but the idea is by participating in communities, you connect with fellow knowledge management practitioners. You can learn together. If you have questions, you can get answers. If you have things that you want to share, you can share them with your peers. It's definitely a way to continue to develop your expertise in the field. The fourth is to attend conferences. So there are local conferences in India, there's conferences around the world, there's conferences all the time. I have a long list of conferences that I maintain, and they're happening in multiple days and every month. So you can always find a conference to attend. Find the one that makes sense for you in terms of what the subject is, where it's located, who's going to be speaking, and that sort of thing. Post and reply on social media. So even just posting in something like LinkedIn and getting interactions with fellow peers in there can be a useful way of both testing your ideas and getting feedback from others in the field. Presenting, speaking, leading discussions, and delivering training. So actually put yourself out there. Participate in an event like this one where you speak up. Present on a community call. Present at a conference. Lead a discussion. Be willing to put on training with your organization. Something that requires you to have to formalize your thinking, put it down in writing, put it into slides, put it into a form where you can present it. Helps you to get better, because as you crystallize your thinking, then it helps you understand better the subject that you're writing about. Writing blog posts and publishing articles. So if you aren't already a blogger, if you don't publish things like LinkedIn articles, think about doing that, or submitting articles to journals. There are lots of ways for you to publish. You can always self-publish. You can publish on a blog platform. You can publish on a newsletter platform like Substack, but find some place and start writing down some of your ideas, and getting feedback from people who read your ideas can help you improve your thinking. Attending training and enrolling in graduate education. So there are lots of training that's associated with conferences. There's training put on by providers. There's training put on by communities, and there's training that's through universities. So find a program that you can benefit from and enroll in that and attend it. Learning by doing. If you haven't yet tackled something, for example, if you're trying to learn about GenAI, then start using the GenAI tool. So when I was asked one point to talk about GenAI, the first thing I did was go figure out which tools were out there and start asking it some questions and seeing what kind of answers I got back and incorporating those answers into what I was doing on the subject. So there's no substitute for jumping in there and trying things out. And the final way is to find a mentor and become a mentor. Both can be very valuable. If you're a mentor to someone else, you still helps you develop because you have to help them. And if you're a mentee to some other mentor, that's certainly a way to benefit from their experience. So I've been serving as a mentor for a long time, and I'm happy to do it. But you can also find many other people who are willing to be a mentor. And if you talk to them, let's say once a month, it's a really helpful way to improve. So specifically, I mentioned books and reading. There's hundreds and hundreds of books that can be very valuable. I've tried to give you sort of a sense of 16 of them that might be a helpful place to start if you haven't read any of these books. I'm not going to go through all of them, but these are an example of the kinds of books that are out there that you can read and learn from. There's many more. Each one of the thought leaders that I've written about has generally written one or more books, and I've tried to highlight those in the articles I've written about that. But find a set of books that you haven't read. You can take some from this list. You can take some from other lists that I maintain. And by reading those books and thinking about what's in them, and even sometimes leading discussions with your other KM practitioners about those books can be a very helpful way to develop your expertise and knowledge. I mentioned I've written about thought leaders, and I've got a new book that's coming out shortly called Profiles in Knowledge, in which I've profiled 120 different thought leaders in knowledge management, and Mayden is one of the ones that's included in the book. I've broken them down into 20 categories. So figuring out how to organize the book, taking the thought leaders and figuring out which subjects do they tend to specialize in. Some of them specialize in multiple subjects and could be in multiple of these categories, but these categories are the ones that I came up with. So every one of the 120 thought leaders is put into one of the categories with the other fellow thought leaders. So I encourage you, when that book's available, to get a hold of it. It'll be free. You can download essentially an ebook and have your own electronic copy of it. And by going through and learning from the other thought leaders, by also reading their work and finding their books and reading their books, you can certainly develop your knowledge of the field. I mentioned blogs, conferences. Here's 3 blogs that you might start with: APQC blog, Harold Jarkey's blog, and Dave Snowden's blog. There are certainly local conferences in India that you can attend, but some of the ones that I recommend from my involvement have been APQC conference, which is held in Houston in the US, KM World, which is held in Washington, D.C., it's coming up next month. And the Knowledge Summit Dublin was held for the first time this year in Ireland, and that was very successful and will be held again next year. So here are 3 that I have personally been involved in, but there are many, many more, and I have a list on my site of the conferences that you can look at. And then podcasts, there's at least 3 or 4 podcasts now that will be of interest. APQC has one. Edwin Morris has one called Because You Need to Know, and the firm Enterprise Knowledge has one as well. So by participating in these, you can certainly benefit. And then communities, I mentioned the one that I lead, the SIKM Leaders. You're all encouraged to join that if you're not already a member. There's also KM for Dev, which focuses on the development world. And then obviously being part of KM Week, we're participating in the KM Global Network, which is a federation of different local knowledge management communities, but being an active member of that as well. So those are 3 that I recommend. There are many more, including your K community of Bangalore and many other local communities, all of which have tremendous potential benefit. For universities, I've listed 3 United States-based ones, but there are also many around the world. There's an excellent PhD program in Bangkok University, but the 3 that I've been involved with are Columbia University in New York, George Mason University in Washington, D.C., and Kent State University in Ohio, where I'm on the advisory board. And then mentoring, we actually have a formal mentoring program in the SIKM Leaders Community in association with KM4Dev. And if you're interested in participating in that program, you can sign up for it and be a part of the next year's program. But you can either be a mentor or you can be a mentee. So I encourage you to look into that. We also do a session at KM World called the Mentoring Mixer. I've been involved in that every year. I will be again this year, where we have opportunity during KM World to have people come and sit at a table with us and talk about a subject, and then rotate and talk at another table, and do that 3 times. So that's the kind of thing that you benefit from in addition to being at a conference, if you can get mentoring while you're there. And then third, I encourage you to find your own mentor. You know, you can take the list of thought leaders as a starting point, but ask a mentor if they're willing, a thought leader, if they're willing to be a mentor. In most cases, they probably will. I've had people approach me about that, and I've agreed to be their mentor. So for additional information, you can join the SIKM Leaders community at that URL. You can follow me on LinkedIn, where I write every day. You can visit my KM site, where I have a large amount of content available on all the different resources that you need to learn more about knowledge management. And then you can read any of my books. Here are the 6 books that I've written, with the last one, Profiles of Knowledge, about to come out soon. And there's links there for getting free copies of most of them. Here are the 6 books that I've written so far. And all but one of these are available for free download. The Community Management Handbook you actually have to buy, but if you buy that one, you can take the other 5 ones for free. So that's a pretty good deal. So let me stop there and see if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask.
Stan, thank you so much. That was a mini masterclass, not just a keynote session. You've covered so much ground, and I'm very impressed and inspired by how you're right at the cutting edge of KM, and you've been at that cutting edge for 3-4 decades at least, with many more to go. I look forward to your next book as well. And I can see a few hands up already. Sundar, you're the first one. Go ahead with your question. I think you're on mute.
I meant to actually clap, but it was impressive. A masterclass, yes, indeed. Now, I just wanted to share another learning from me. When we implement Agile, sometimes we, in a chaotic environment, we go bottom up, right? And it's best to sync up with the enterprise architecture about their strategy and their tactical movement, and then build our strategy. Because sometimes when you go bottom up and then they go top down, you are not synced. That's the only 2 cents a lesson learned I wanted to share.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I think you want to have sort of an intersection of what does the top think, what does the user base want, and then you factor in also what do you see, right? If you can get an integration of the 3, where you have both the goals of the top management and the users, and also your view, if they can all be intersected, that's ideal.
Yep.
Thanks. I'd like to invite Ved now to say a few words. Ved?
Madan, I think you put it really well. It was a complete masterclass, and the 4 decades of wisdom that Stan holds has come out so clearly. Right. There are a couple of exciting developments that have happened in KM. One is the release of the O1 model of ChatGPT, and they claim that it thinks before it responds, right? And the tests have actually proven to be really good when it comes to, for example, handling complex code or even maths, which was a weak point of the earlier models of ChatGPT. So O1 model is being sort of tested out at the moment. It's available, and it seems to be a game changer of a different order altogether. The second development that has happened is the EU, regulation of AI. And most of the LLMs that are publicly available, okay, they may be paid as well, they actually don't pass the test that EU has. So there are firms that specialize in testing those LLMs and against the regulation that is coming in. So I guess the LLMs that are out there, including Gemini, OpenAI, they have some work to do before they will be acceptable, in a widespread manner in EU, in a formal manner. So that is one other big development that is happening even as we speak. And that is good for humanity overall, because the most important thing that a lot of people, including the scientific community, the developers, the governments, they are scared of is that it can impact, it can pose threats that are simply unforeseen as of today. Because AI is going to be embedded in a lot of different appliances, in the systems that we use, and we need to really be cognizant about the threats that it can impose. So the EU Act is another awaited thing.
Great, thanks. Let me ask Rudy and Manfred to have the last word now. Rudy, are you there? Rudy is one of the stalwarts of our knowledge management ecosystem here in India.
Yes, Madan, I'm there, but I cannot put on the camera. I've just reached home. I was driving earlier, and that's how I got disconnected. I was really thrilled to listen to Stan. Stan, amazing to hear you in person. Your knowledge that you have gathered over the years, the way you have distilled it in this few minutes, I must say it's really something that, and like Madan said, it is more of a masterclass than a keynote. I really appreciate. Thank you very much for sharing, distilling all the knowledge that you gathered over the years into these few slides. I'm sure the next generation who are coming up as KM leads are going to really take a lot of learning from what you have shared. I also appreciate you because you have worked a lot on AI. You know, that is something that normally after a certain age, people tend to switch off from learning new things, but this is really appreciable the way you have mastered AI. So thanks. And Madan, thank you for organizing this session with all the others. It's been really worthwhile attending. Thank you.
Thanks, Rudy. And Manfred, as the head of the KM Global Network, I'd like to invite you to say the last few words.
You did a great job, and I really would like to join Rudolf and the others to express my gratitude for this wonderful event. Stan, you summarized it. You gave a wonderful impression on the variety, and I particularly love your focus on do your reading and learn the knowledge management stuff. There's so much out there, and I think it's on us, on me, on all of us to learn and to appreciate what there is in our trade. And regarding to the EU AI Act, I think sometimes, you know, when we cannot use our iPhones and the state-of-the-art features, I think that's quite of annoying, you know. That's a matter of fact in Europe. But on the other hand, I think we are a little bit protected as well. So I would like to use Hinton, the new Nobel laureate, and say, let's be a little bit careful and reflective on that. And I think it needs a community like that to test and to learn, but not make every error globally scaling. Yeah. So thank you so much for this great show. It was really, really insightful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Manfred. Stan, we're out of time, but I want to tell you that we carry on a lot of the spirit of your work, the importance of community. The Bangalore K community has been running for 20 years, and we've gone through so many waves of technology. And the only way for us to make sense out of all this is to meet as a community and say, here's my gut feeling, or this is what I've read. I think we should do this. We've seen the rise of the smartphone generation, the social media networks in the last 10, 15 years, and now AI. And I'm sure the only way we can all learn collectively at speed, at scale, is through communities. So, Stan, I think your message is loud and clear among all of us. And if there's anything else you want to sign off with, you have the final word. Stan, over to you.
Well, I want to thank everyone for the kind words. I really appreciate it. I'm glad when I do these kind of things to get that feedback makes it worthwhile, and I'll keep doing it.
Please keep doing it, Stan. And one day we want you to come here to India and speak. It's a long flight, I know, but maybe we can combine India, Thailand, Singapore, and do 3 KM conferences for you together, something like that.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah. Well, we're out of time, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us at the Bangalore Tech Community. Thanks to my colleagues at MXR World for joining us and hosting this. And thanks to all of you joining from the US, Austria, Japan, and I don't know, so many other countries out there. Thank you all so much, and have a fantastic week ahead. Today also, by the way, is a very auspicious day in India. This is a Lakshmi Puja, so it's a very holy, auspicious, and a divine kind of an event for us. And this is coming at the end of Dasara, and I'm in Calcutta right now, and it's absolutely amazing to see the kind of creativity, the kind of celebration of knowledge sharing, of arts and craft in this kind of a time period. So once again, thanks everyone, and we meet again the Bangalore Tech Community on December 18th, the third Wednesday of the month. So see you all.
Thanks.
Thanks, Madan. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Very nice session. Thanks.